there, my name is Phyllis Rush, and I'm the Director of Content Marketing for Bell Media, who is the host for today's webinar on search engine dominance. A few quick words about Bell Media. We're a digital marketing agency, and we have multiple offices throughout the Southeast. We're a Google Premier Partner, a 4-time Inc. 5000 company, and we're a leader in digital strategies that deliver results by fueling customer acquisition for our clients. Okay, with all that said, I'd like to introduce you to our two Bell Media presenters today. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Chuck Adams, our Vice President of Business Development. Chuck's background includes working in sales leadership with leading national brands such as the well-known Home Advisor. You may have heard of them. He's also led sales and marketing efforts with multiple regional companies. So next, I'd like to introduce Jason Cordova, our lead digital consultant. Jason has worked in senior management at several of what we like to call the big acronym companies. So GE, IBM, and HP, just to name a few. He's an expert in understanding and optimizing a prospect's digital journey and their path to purchase, as you will hear very soon. So here's the agenda today as we discuss search engine dominance. First, we're going to give you some statistics about why and how you can cut through search engine clutter. Secondly, why you'll want to dominate the search engines in more than just one position on page 1. Next, we're going to talk about why search engine marketing, or some people call it pay-per-click, and why it helps you combat the battlefield for new business. We're also going to discuss the role of frequently updated content marketing in the path to search engine dominance. And then finally, we'll summarize the major takeaways, and we'll give you some advice on some of the next steps you can take. And then we'll take some questions at the end. So some housekeeping tips. Throughout the webinar, we encourage you all to pose questions in the Q&A section of the webinar menu, and we'll address those at the end of our webinar, okay? So with all of that said, I will turn it over to Jason to get us started. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Phyllis, and thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you for everybody who has chosen to attend today. We are glad you're here and talking about a subject that is near and dear to our hearts here at Bell Media. So I want to start by talking about the most valuable commodity in the world. And people might think something like oil or precious metals or jewels. But really, in the world that we live in today, the most valuable commodity in the world is people's attention. It is hard to grasp, it is certainly hard to keep, and it is found in a cluttered world today. We are constantly bombarded by any number of things that are distracting to us, and it makes it very difficult as marketers to reach out and get that attention from the customers that we seek. And that's what we're going to be talking today about, is customer acquisition. It's the lifeblood of any business, and really, how do you capture people's attention and really move forward? You know, I want to put a little data around this. The average person on any given day is exposed to somewhere between 4,000 and 10,000 ads. I'm going to say that again for emphasis. 4,000 to 10,000 ads. And every waking moment in everything you do, you're constantly surrounded by advertisements, messaging, people trying to reach you. On top of that, we're constantly interrupted. On average, every person in their work environment is interrupted about 10.5 minutes, so 6 times an hour. On average, somebody is going to come up, say something to you, you're going to get a message popping up on your screen. Something is going to happen that distracts you from doing the things that you're trying to do. And that is a very big challenge as marketers for us to cut through that. The big question that we have to ask ourselves is, how do you stand out? How do you put yourself in a place where your message resonates with customers, that they really can hear it, and that message is reaching them at the right place at the right time? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. The other thing that we have to consider is all of us as marketers are working with limited resources. There's never enough money for marketing in anybody's budget. I'm sure we all recognize this. And as a result, we have to make a lot of tough choices in how we're going to spend our marketing dollars. And there is a multitude of tools out there that we can leverage to reach customers, and they all have their benefits. Outdoor is great for when you want to achieve brand awareness. Direct mail is a great tool if you have a very targeted audience you're trying to reach. But how do you really optimize that? The great time management guru, Stephen Covey, has this wonderful video out there. You may have seen this in the past, but ultimately what he does is he brings up somebody from the audience, and he has this big glass bowl, and he asks them to fill the bowl with pebbles and little rocks and water and sand until it's near the top. And then he hands them a grouping of big rocks, and he says, now try to fit the big rocks in. And so people try to, and invariably they're not able to. There's just too much stuff in the bowl. And the whole point of the story is that when you're filling that bowl, when you're really trying to put things together, you have to start with the big rocks first. If you don't, then you can't get all of the things into the bowl, right? Well, and the point is you have to make decisions on what's most important. Well, marketing is no different. For us, that glass bowl gets filled up with all of these pebbles and things, and we spend a lot of our budget on things that maybe are not the most important to us in reaching our customers. You have to start with the big rocks. And in our case, the big rock, the biggest rock of all, is search engines. Search engines are where customers go to get answers. It is where they ultimately are going to find you as a customer of your business. And so you have to start with that big rock. That's the investment that is going to lead to the biggest results. It's going to be the thing that optimizes your budget. And so when you think about maximizing growth, you have to start with that big rock around search engines. If it's the one thing you do, this is where you want to invest. Search engines are where customers are today. That it's where they go to solve problems. It's the thing that they are going to do first when they're making decisions, and the last thing they're going to do before they ultimately interact with the business. Search engines account for 93% of web traffic. I've been blown away by that number. I never had any idea until I really started working in this space how much traffic is accounted for starting with search engines. And on average, the number says 4 to 5 searches every day. I don't know about you, but I've probably done that before my morning cup of coffee. I think I counted the other day 22 or 23 searches just in the 8-hour workday that I was looking for things. Some business searches, some personal searches, but it was really where I started whenever I had to make any kind of decision or answer any kind of question in the day. So this is where customers are. It's how they're making decisions, and it's imperative that you're there to be successful in this particular space. We know, depending on what industry you're in, there's going to be different customer journeys, and Chuck's going to talk to you a little bit about that. But the majority of all purchases, no matter what business you're in, begin and end with a search. The journey might be a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, but it's always going to be sort of capped by search. And we know that once customers have done those searches, they are ready to make decisions and ready to move. 75% of local searches to interact with businesses in their local world, whether that's an appointment in the medical space, a store visit, maybe they need to have some sort of home service performed, they're going to interact within 24 hours. So it is an immediate result at the end of it, which once again underscores why you have to be there when they're making these searches. And on top of that, we have to think about the battlefield we fight on today. And the battlefield that we are now fighting on is page 1 of a search engine, specifically Google in most cases, because it is the overwhelming leader in terms of market share. You have to be there. And not only do you have to be there, but you have to be there in a dominant way to get customers to interact with your business, to cut through that clutter, to be as successful as you want to be. We talked about how much traffic comes from search engines, but even within search engines, 80 to 90% of web traffic comes from page 1. Page 2 is not a place you want to be. Google works very hard to put the most relevant answers it possibly can on page 1 to solve customers' issues, and they're quite successful at that. So it is imperative to be on page 1, but you also have to remember that page 1 is a zero-sum game. There are only a finite numbers of positions that you can occupy on page 1. There's really 3 sections. Sort of the paid section, which are where you can place ads at the top of the page. There's the map section, which is great for local businesses, local searches. And then there's the organic section, which is where Google has scanned the internet and found all the different places that have the most relevant answers to questions for customers. With all of that, there's only 22 to 24 positions on a desktop or laptop screen, and even less on mobile. Mobile real estate in particular is very difficult to have. There's less spots, and it's now driving 70% of all searches. So it is really important to be on page one in a meaningful way to capture customers. And so we're going to go a little bit into what that looks like for different businesses. Chuck's going to walk you through some journeys and how this all plays out and the importance of your positioning in page one.
Thanks, Jason. Really impactful information around why it's important to win search and really think about it through the lens of the big rocks that we need to start with. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what search engine dominance is and why it should matter to your business. We'll take a look at some different consumer path to purchase and highlight some areas that are important for generating success. So let's start with the definition. Search engine dominance is not a marketing buzzword at Bell Media. It is a focused and cohesive marketing effort designed to occupy multiple positions on page one for relevant high-value searches, regardless of where someone is on their path to purchase. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So you can see the screenshots. These are from an actual search that we did for a high-value term for Bell Media, digital marketing agency, Birmingham, Alabama. And you can see Bell Media is occupying one of the paid positions at the top. So that's one of the first 4 positions. We're also showing up in the map or the 3-pack. So that then gives us 2 of the top 7 positions. And then we're also ranking number 2 in organic. So what that means in this high value search, at least within our space, we have 3 of the first 9 positions. That is going to maximize quality website traffic and also create a competitive advantage. Because if there are 24 positions on page one, and we've got more than 1, in this case 3 in the first 9 positions, every position we have more than 1 is 1 less that a competitor can occupy. Think about this. If you can occupy 2 spots on page 1, prospects are 50% more likely to become customers. Think about that for a second. Think about the impact that could have on your business if you could drive 50% higher conversions of prospects to customers. You know, we have discussions with clients every day, and we hear all the time, look, I'm already on page 1. That's great. That is awesome, is what we say. The next question we ask is, what position are you in? Where are you ranking on page 1? Because that's really important. Well, let's say someone tells us they're at page 5 organic. That's great. The question we always ask then is, how many spots are you actually showing on page 1? And the response we get is almost universal. What do you mean by that? The point is, being on page 1 is really just table stakes today if you want to grow your business. Occupying and having a strategy to have more than 1 position is really how you can amplify growth. So let's take a look at some different scenarios through the lens of the search journey for the consumer and the path to purchase link. And let's start with a decision cycle that's really fast, where a quick decision is going to be made. And we see this a lot in home services, in legal, and sometimes in certain medical categories. For the purposes of this scenario, we're going to look at an HVAC company and really look at some first-party data that we've got at Bell Media. So it's the middle of August, and the temperature today in Birmingham is going to be 95 degrees. It's going to be hot. So I want you to think about this. You get off work today, 5:30, 6 o'clock. You're ready to go home, relax, take it easy. You get to your house and you open the door and you are hit with a blast of heat. What's the first thing you're going to do? Well, you're going to go and check the thermostat to make sure that your AC is on. And when you come to the realization that your AC is turned on and not working, what are you going to do then? Well, after you go through the 7 stages of grief, you're going to realize that your AC is out and you're going to have to get someone out to fix it, because there's no way you're going to be able to stay in your house when it's 95 degrees. Most people are going to turn to search. And even beyond that, they're going to turn to search on a mobile device, because if it's 90 plus degrees in your house and it's after hours, you're not going to pull your laptop out. You're probably not going to go to your desktop. You're going to turn to the first device that you can get your hands on to try and find someone to come fix your AC. And for most of us, that's going to be a mobile device. Think about this. In fast paths to purchase, 75% of those conversions are going to happen with a single interaction, and 86% are going to happen on the same day. What that means is sometimes you only get one shot to convert that prospect into a paying customer. So what do you need to do to make sure that you are ready to take advantage of this really short decision cycle? Well, the first thing you need to do is ensure that you're providing a frictionless and mobile experience. You've got to make it super easy for someone who's in need and is going to be making a decision really fast to be able to connect with your company. You can execute this through click-to-calls on ad messaging, click-to-calls on websites. But it's got to be easy, because, again, you may only have one opportunity. The other thing to think about is, really with any purchase, people are going to buy from people they trust. So how do you create trust in a really short decision cycle? Well, Google reviews. What they do is they provide social proof that's important in really any decision-making process. It helps build trust. So it's really important that you're paying attention to not only the quality of your Google reviews, but the consistency and the relevancy. Really important for building trust. And then the final thing to consider, certainly in this scenario, is you've got to be available. So if it's after hours and I need a professional to come fix my AC, I'm going to be looking for messaging around 24-hour service or emergency service. And by the way, your Google My Business listing, you need to ensure that that's also showing that you're open 24/7 if you're in this type of industry. All of these factors not only are important when you've only got one opportunity to win that customer, but they also play into a larger search engine dominant strategy to help you occupy multiple positions on page one. So if your company has products and services where consumers are making decisions really fast, search engine dominance is going to be critical for driving success. Now let's take a look at a more moderate path to purchase. And we see this happening in financial services, multifamily, property management, senior living, and even in some healthcare that's non-urgent. What this really means is that consumers are going to do more research. They're going to have more website visits, more touch points, and all of this is generated by more searches. 88% of patients use search today to find a provider. And as Jason said already, 75% of those are never going to make it to page 2. Well, I recently just went through this type of scenario myself when I was diagnosed with an arthritic hip and I need a hip replacement by a sports orthopedist. Well, after I got the diagnosis, the first thing I did afterwards is I turned to search, and I wanted to not only validate the diagnosis, but really research and educate myself on who I needed to choose to actually do the hip replacement surgery. So after looking and trying to find out who was the best in the industry, I made a decision, went and saw the surgeon. He confirmed that I did need a hip replacement and actually said that I needed to do the robotic arm hip replacement, better outcomes. First thing I did when I left is I did research on the robotic arm surgery to make sure that what he was telling me I felt comfortable with. So the idea here is people are using search when there's a moderate path to purchase to validate their plans, to validate and educate themselves, to really help close the trust chasm so they feel comfortable with their choice, and to focus on outcomes. And the way you can actually execute on this through the lens of a search engine dominant strategy is through content marketing, making sure that you are present to meet the needs of that consumer, to help educate, validate, and let them know how their product or service is going to help solve your problem. Medium path to purchase is going to be more research, more touch points, and more searches. So if you can occupy multiple positions on a search engine results page throughout this path to purchase, it's going to mean bigger growth for your organization. And finally, let's take a look at the longer search journey. These are usually for bigger ticket items like homes, cars, and vacations. And, we're going to look at this really through the lens of the vacation traveler. Vacations are the largest annual discretionary purchase for more than 70% of households. And the average accommodation path to purchase lasts about 36 days with 45 touch points across multiple devices. Now, my wife and I just went through this earlier this year. We were planning a vacation, and really when we started that planning and that booking phase, the first thing we needed to figure out is where do we want to go? So after we figure out where we want to go, we need to understand how we're going to get there. And then when we know where we're going to go and how we're going to get there, we want to know where are we going to stay? And then when we've answered those questions, we want to figure out what we're going to do when we actually get there. So for us, what that journey looked like was each of us doing hundreds of searches whenever we had time. So in the morning, as I fired up the laptop to do a little work, I may do a couple of searches. At lunch on my mobile device, I may do a couple of searches. We would then share both through email and text what we found, and then have some conversations about it at night. So our path throughout this journey of planning a vacation was really hundreds of searches combined with some offline behaviors for us to ultimately decide what we wanted to do. If you understand and your customer journey is a longer customer journey, there's a couple of things you need to think about to make sure you're positioning yourself for success. You've got to optimize the experience for multiple devices and personalize it so that you're providing value at every stage, because there's going to be a lot of research that goes in, and consumers are going to gravitate to the companies that are there in their time of need, who are answering their questions and solving their problems and helping them on their path to purchase. And then there are going to be multiple opportunities really to engage and re-engage to that consumer. So it's important that your content and messaging matches where that consumer is and solves the problem for them along their path to purchase. By the way, we chose a resort in Mexico, and it was awesome. So a couple of things that we hope that you take away from today's webinar. One, people are distracted, and you have to find a way to break through. Search is how people solve problems and make decisions. It's the big rocks. So if you can only focus on one thing, search engine dominance is the game that you need to be playing, because it's the best path for growth. It is a cohesive and integrated strategy that, when executed properly, will generate results that are going to be exponential. So ask yourself this question. How is my company thinking about the consumer path to purchase? And are we executing a search engine dominant strategy against those journeys to maximize our opportunity for growth? And with that, I'll turn it back over to Phyllis.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for that really impactful deep dive into search engine dominance. And we hope you all took something away from that today that you can begin actioning in your offices this week. So thanks for all the really thoughtful questions. It was a good discussion. If you have any other questions we didn't answer today, there are several different ways to get in touch with us. Number one, you can email us at marketing@gobellmedia.com. You can also visit our website at gobellmedia.com. And lastly, we hope you'll join us over on Facebook. And our Facebook page is Bell Love Local. Thanks again so much to all of you for attending our webinar today, whether you are attending our live version or if you're listening to the replay. Be looking for our October webinar invitation very soon. We're going to be unveiling the topic very soon, and we hope you'll sign up, and we hope you have a terrific rest of your week.